Hello and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers. Hello and welcome to Enlightened Empaths. We're so happy to have you join us this week. Denise and I were saying before we started recording that this has just been kind of a low energy, funky, weird week in terms of feeling tired and flustered. Maybe it's all the political stuff or stars, who knows? But we thought it would be really nice to just bring to you all a beautiful, beautiful episode of positive, good news stories that are out there in the world. Doesn't that sound nice?
I think it's so needed right now on a personal level, on a professional level, on a collective level. I think we all just need to focus on the positive for a little bit and step away from the fear-based, the anxiety, and the pure exhaustion of what the world feels like right now for some people.
Yeah, I agree. So sit back and join us. We have some great stories about animal heroes and kids doing amazing things and some cool scientific discoveries and just humanity reaching out to their fellow friends in need. So I'm going to start us off with our first one. It's
Perfect.
about a 13-year-old dog named Gita who recently saved her person's life. Back in September, Deputy Wright of the Stevens County Sheriff's Office was patrolling when he spotted a lone dog sitting in the middle of the road. With no houses visible nearby, Wright attempted to coax the dog into his car to search for its owner. However, the dog refused. After checking nearby residences with no luck, Wright returned to the road where the dog had now positioned herself directly on the center line. When he tried to get her to move, Gita suddenly ran up to an unmarked, little-used road. Gita led him to a small summer cabin, and it was there, not far from the cabin, that Wright discovered an 84-year-old man lying on the ground calling for help. The elderly man had fallen hours earlier, injured his leg, and was unable to move. Thanks to Gita's quick thinking and unwavering loyalty, and Deputy Wright's persistence, the man's life was saved. We credit Gita for saving his life that day, the sheriff's office said. The loyalty and heroism of our furry friends never ceases to amaze us. That reminds me, do you remember that story, about 15 years ago, of the pot-bellied pig who saved her mommy's life?
No.
It was this huge, big pig, and she lived in this house, same thing, off a country road with her person, and she had a dog door, but she had gotten so big and chubby, she really couldn't get through the dog door anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And her mommy had a heart attack and was dying. And that little pot-bellied pig squeezed herself through that dog door and sat on the street until someone came to help. And then what she would do, because the woman was, still alive, just on the floor with a heart attack, she saw the pot-bellied pig squeezing herself in and out of that dog door. So she'd run out if she thought she heard a car, try to, get someone's attention. Then she'd squeeze herself through the dog door to lick her and check on her and nudge her and make sure she was okay, until finally someone stopped. And Denise, what breaks my heart is the pot-bellied pig, the underside of her belly was all scraped and bleeding and bruised, and she had to have some little salves put on it, but she was okay.
Oh, good. But see, I love that the animals are so loyal. They're so devoted. They're so pure. They don't have a hidden agenda.
I'm going to try not to cry, but the one story that always makes me cry about Lily, years ago we had a little boat and we'd go out to this island and, we'd just drop anchor and take our cooler and just spend the day by the island. And this one day, it was just a beautiful summer day, and we went around to the back of the island to look for seashells. And when we came back, the tide had come in. And I know Denise is like a Mainer. You're like, oh, hello, rookie move number one.
No.
But I had to swim out and pull the boat towards us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm swimming out there. I'm like, girls, wait here, wait here, wait here. I swim out to the boat and I hear them screaming for me. And I'm like, oh, for the love of God, what now? And I turn around and my little 7-pound Yorkie, Lily, is swimming, paddling against the waves, blowing over her little furry head, trying to get to me. I think she thought I was in trouble.
Oh.
Yeah, so I had to swim back, grab her, and then swim to the rope and pull the boat. It was fun. But that image of her just, battling the waves.
That does bring a tear. It truly does.
I know, our animals are beautiful.
They are. Our next one is also about an animal, and this one is about a rescued fox that needs a hug a day. A 74-year-old man who helps run a wildlife sanctuary helped nurse a fox cub after she was brought in 7 years ago. Jeff Grucock believes she had been poisoned. He spent the next year nursing her back to health after naming her Sweep. As a result, she imprinted on him and was unable to be returned to the wild. So now Sweep spends her life with a variety of wildlife that are being rehabilitated at the sanctuary. Jeff said, Sweep is such a lovely, friendly fox. Most people can give her a stroke, but she's definitely closest with me and insists on us having a hug every day. I think it's her way of saying thank you for all the looking after we do for her.
Pictures of this little fox giving him a hug. I'll post it on our Facebook page.
Okay. But again, older person, connection with animal. You've heard me say this so many times that I always think a huge judge of character is, and it'll come through a lot in readings, and I'll say little kids, animals, and old people would love this person because they're such true judges of character. So I love that we've had 2 stories about older people and their connection with animals that were so bonded to them.
I know. It's just absolutely the best. Even though Jeff has an unfortunate last name. Can I just say that?
Yes, I stumbled for a minute. I must be off.
Poor Jeff in middle school. What's your last name? Grucock. Okay. Our next one is about an Australian artist who's gone viral after sharing his work for free. John Pavart, an artist from Australia, has been painting coconut husks for years, and he leaves them around the beaches of Magnetic Island for tourists and travelers to find. He says, I just happened to have a bit of art gear on me and thought I'd pick one up and paint it. I put it down and someone picked it up and they seemed to like it, so I just kept going. His artwork often depicts sea life and beachscapes, and by now he's painted over 750 of them. People are finding them and seeking them out from all over the world. Once painted, he will leave a picture as a clue on a Facebook page that he started, and it's triggered a free treasure hunt, which routinely attracts many of the kids in the island's town.
Oh,
You see stories like this a lot. I remember, our beloved John Holland. I remember he spotlighted an artist who did this in Boston. And the Boston artist ended up getting quite a bit of notoriety and was able to actually sell his artwork. But it started off just from an altruistic desire and passion for sharing his love of art. And he would just leave little canvases at, bus benches and coffee shops just all around town.
so truly paying it forward with the beauty and the message of the art.
Yeah.
I love that. Our next one is about a Chick-fil-A story. A Houston Chick-fil-A recently surprised a terminally ill regular customer with a bucket list experience. Bill and Becky decided 20 years ago as they approached retirement, they'd set out to visit every state capital, but one state remained unchecked on their bucket list, Alaska. Now that Bill is dealing with a cancer diagnosis, he and his partner Becky of more than 50 years had all but accepted this bucket list adventure would not happen. But when the Springwoods Village location of Chick-fil-A found out about Bill's unfulfilled dream, they hatched a plan. Bill and Becky mean so much to our team, and we wanted to do what we could to help them complete their bucket list, said Mike Magdaleno. He owns the local Chick-fil-A. We love channeling a spirit for adventure from Alaska to Texas, and we're honored to play a small part in helping them achieve this incredible milestone. He reached out to the Chick-fil-A owner in Juneau. He emailed a photograph from Bill and Becky's wedding day. The Juneau Chick-fil-A blew it up on a cardboard cutout and began placing it in front of iconic Juneau sites, including the state capitol building and the Mendenhall Glacier, where a visual artist used their wedding photo as inspiration to draw them sitting comfortably in front of the glacier as if they had visited it in their 20s. The team then took all these photos and made a scrapbook, placed it in a basket with some souvenirs, and mailed it to the Houston Springwoods Village location as a surprise. As an extra touch, the touring Chick-fil-A team members signed Bill and Becky's names in the Capitol Building's visitor log. Bill and Becky met in 1972 at a telephone company. They live surrounded by loved ones with the company of 5 children, 17 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren. That is so damn sweet.
I know, isn't that?
Oh, and even though they physically couldn't go, the effort that total strangers put into making that such a beautiful experience for them.
I
It's
know, and
incredible.
it made me think like these were longtime customers of Chick-fil-A, so it sounds like everyone who worked there knew them. And I guess they had come in one day, maybe from a doctor's appointment, and said, I guess this one last adventure we can't do. And, sometimes you hear stories like that as you're going about your day and you're like, oh, that's sad. I'm going to say a prayer for you. But to go this extra step, I find it so inspiring.
And what a beautiful gift for all those children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to have that memorialized of pictures of them on their wedding day, because often we'll have like one picture of a grandparent from their wedding or maybe one or two, depending on your age and location and what your circumstances were. But to have that as a beautiful keepsake as well.
It's amazing. Okay, our next one says Egypt is malaria-free. So we have a positive science story. Egypt, one of the world's 15 most populous nations, has been certified malaria-free, killing nearly 600,000 people every year, almost all of whom dwell in Africa. The malarial transmission chain has been interrupted for 3 years in a row. The head of the WHO organization said malaria is as old as Egyptian civilization itself, but the disease that plagued pharaohs now belongs to its history. Malaria has been traced as far back as 4000 BC in Egypt, with genetic evidence of the disease found in Tutankhamun and other ancient Egyptian mummies. With most of Egypt's population living along the banks of the Nile River, malaria's prevalence has been as high as 40%. Only 44 countries in the tropical belts where malaria spreads have been declared malaria-free since the creation of the WHO. Near neighbors UAE and far neighbors Morocco have also won the designation of being malaria-free.
It's another beautiful story. It's absolutely beautiful. And imagine the sense of relief for so many people.
Oh, I know. I mean, just to think about 40% of a population going through that.
I didn't realize that 600,000 people a year were killed by malaria.
I didn't either. I knew it was still happening, but I didn't know it was that intense.
Right.
That's and I'm just so grateful they're still working on this and actually having success after millennia.
We need more research and resources to go into those types of things. That's my personal opinion.
I agree. All right, we have one more animal story, and then I promise this is our last. It's not an animal show. Do you want to share it with me?
Yes. Well, this is on October 12th. A Southwest Airlines pilot fell in love with a little kitten named Avery while transporting him and 150 other shelter animals out of the path of Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Partnering with a charity and an animal rescue, the plan was to take the dogs and cats to Milwaukee from Florence, South Carolina, where they could find homes for them. However, Avery managed to latch on to Captain Priebus before he made it to Milwaukee. It was love at 30,000 feet. I don't think Captain Matt was expecting to adopt a hurricane evacuee from Tennessee when he agreed to fly this amazing special flight. But some things are meant to be. The pilot and fellow aviator volunteers also helped deliver humanitarian aid, including shampoo, hygiene products, and emergency packs filled with Mylar blankets, socks, laundry sheets, and more for displaced and impacted families in Asheville, North Carolina, and surrounding communities. These emergency packs were included in 6,000 pounds of aid items flown via Southwest Cargo free of charge. The rescued animals can be found at Wisconsin's Humane Animal Welfare Society, Elmbrook Humane Society, the Washington County Humane Society, the Humane Society of Jefferson County, the Dane County Humane Society, Eau Claire Community Humane Society, Greene County Humane Society, and Illinois One Tail at a Time, among others. But Avery has already found a home. I love this, but I think this beautifully showcases how much people have pulled together to help what's been going on in that part of the country and that part of the world. So many people have volunteered private planes, helicopters, equipment, bringing in supplies. It goes back to what you said at the beginning, is that it's about humanity. It's about looking out for each other.
Yeah, and the extraordinary measures will go to remind one another that we are not alone, that we're all in
Right.
this together.
And just it takes so much less effort to do something from kindness than to keep the anger and the malice fired up.
Yeah,
Personal, I mean, I just know how I feel physically when I do something from my heart versus when I react from anger or distrust.
yeah, it feels awful.
Yeah,
But the echoes of kindness last forever.
they do.
Okay,
That's,
this
that's
next story, I really want to get your feedback on, Denise.
okay.
It's called Do Mushrooms Have Consciousness? Now, we
Ooh,
typically only see the tiny mushrooms on the surface without realizing that there's a vast network of interconnected mycelium beneath it. But it's through this network that information can be shared, somewhat like neural connections in the brain. You'd be surprised at just how much fungi are capable of, said one of the researchers to reporters. They have memories, they learn, and they can make decisions. Quite frankly, the differences in how they solve problems compared to humans is mind-blowing. Their recent study examined how a wood-decaying mushroom network responded to two different situations. Wood blocks would be placed in a circle versus an X arrangement. So, for example, if the fungi didn't display decision-making skills, like do we go around the circle, do we go through the X, they would simply spread out from a central point without consideration for the position of the blocks. But this is not what the researchers witnessed. In the circle arrangement, for example, the degree of mycelial colonization was the same at any given block. However, all the empty spaces inside the circle remained clear. It was proposed that the mycelial network did not see a benefit in overextending itself in an already well-populated area. These findings suggest that the mycelial network was able to communicate information about its surroundings throughout the entire network and change its direction of growth accordingly based on the shape. So what do you think
wow.
about that?
Well, there's that whole Netflix special on the
Yeah.
fabulous fungi. And we've talked about this on other episodes about the network of trees, like through the root system, they'll let the other trees know what's going on. It's all this underground connection. I personally think that all living things have some level of consciousness, have some kind of energy imprint. It doesn't surprise me. I have a dear friend who is very, very into mushrooms, and we used to joke, and it didn't matter what we were talking about, and then the catchphrase became, "There's a mushroom for that." Whether it was you had a headache or a stomach ache or you needed to open your third eye, there was always a mushroom for that. So they really are a much more evolved species than I think people realize.
It's amazing to consider. Everything has consciousness.
Right. But just the fact that you have to wonder, did they have a little meeting? Okay, we're going to go around this. Don't get in the middle. And there was some little rogue mushroom that wanted to get into the middle, and they had to get its little ass out of there.
I bet that's how it works. I bet they have like committees. Or their little mushrooms get on each other's nerves.
Oh, goodness. Or maybe they're here to show us that you can work together collaboratively and everybody's just going to get along and just follow the rule with, okay, stay outside of the inside of the circle here, people.
I need to finish
Mushrooms.
that documentary. I don't know what it was because everyone told me to watch that. And I felt like I was in science class in middle school. I kept falling asleep.
Yeah. There's a lot of information that's shared in it, that's for sure, but it
Yeah,
is fascinating.
I need to try it again. I did watch last night. I watched the new Manhattan alien abduction documentary on Netflix.
Okay.
That one, guys, I would love feedback on what you thought. It was wild. You need to watch it and tell me what you think. But it was really good. It showed two different viewpoints of this famous abduction case where 23 people allegedly witnessed a woman floating out of her window into a craft.
Okay, so one of your last recommendations, this has nothing to do with happy stories, was to watch the Netflix special Evil. And you said, oh, it's funny, you're going to
Oh, it's
love
so
it.
good.
I watched the first one and it got in my head. The demon got in my, and
George,
I
the
freaked
demon
myself
George.
out and I thought, oh, hell no, I'm not going to. And it was late at night and I
Oh, you
was like
can't
going
watch it late at night. No, 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 no,
to.
no. No, no, no. You have to watch it like during your lunch break or while you're cooking dinner. You cannot like sit in your bedroom or on a couch and it's dark. Try it again. It's good.
Well, it wasn't as light as I had hoped, but it was humorous. But then my mind went 0 to 60 with demons and entities and things, and I thought, ooh,
But was
no,
it a
no.
demon? You saw how did you get to the part where she outsmarted him?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So anyway, next one, back to happy and light.
Yes. Happy.
Emily Worthington was touched when a woman approached her flower booth and bought a bouquet. After paying for them, she handed the flowers back and said, "Please give these to someone who might need them today." Emily said, after she walked away, I turned around to the vendor next to me and she heard the whole thing too. She heard the whole thing too, and we were both like, that's so sweet. How do I know who to give these flowers to? The person next to her said, you'll know. And later in the day, as Worthington was wrapping up, a woman approached her booth asking if she could make flowers for a funeral. The woman explained that her sister-in-law had recently passed away. In that moment, Worthington felt an emotional connection. It was like a light bulb clicked. I realized she was the one I'd been waiting for all day to give these flowers to.
Oh, wow.
And what really struck me when that was she felt the emotional connection and she knew.
She
And
knew.
isn't that how it works? When you
Yes.
just know?
Yes. It really, really is. You know, I had this moment. I go to Trader Joe's a lot. Do you go to Trader Joe's?
No.
Okay.
It's far away.
We luckily have a fairly close one now. And I go and I always bitch and moan to anyone who will listen. Why does Trader Joe's ask for my entire bio while they're checking me out? You know, like, oh, what are you going to cook with this? And how are you going to do this? And what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, just let me bring up my groceries. I mean, I'm always joking, but
Mm-hmm.
so my father dies and I'm having the get together after the funeral at my house. So I go to Trader Joe's to get all the wine and beer and food stuff, cheeses and all that. And I'm checking out and, you know, we got a lot of people come to the house. So I got a lot of wine and a lot of beer. And the lady's like, oh, looks like you're having a party. Oh, this cheese is so good. You should put it with brie and cranberry. And I'm like, I'm on the verge of tears like every second of that day, right? And I'm just
Right.
nodding and holding it together. And she goes, so what are you celebrating? And I'm like, shit, like, what do I, you know, like, you don't want to be like, well, my father died, you know, like, I just didn't know what. And so I just kind of smiled and fumbled through my wallet and like a little tears came out and she goes, you're not celebrating? And I was like, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I appreciate your joy. I said, but yeah, we're celebrating my father's life. He passed away this week and his funeral is tomorrow. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me give you a hug. And so we had a nice little moment and I'm pushing my cart out to the parking lot and she goes, wait. And she hands me a huge bouquet of flowers.
Oh.
Yeah. And said, just know you're all everyone is in everyone's thoughts. And it was just beautiful. And I've never complained about Trader Joe's since. And their beautiful, joyful chattiness.
You know, years ago, when I was running the coffee shop at the school that I worked in, with the kids, and we ran this commercial kitchen, blah, blah. And I found a floral delivery and I bought a bunch of carnations at wholesale cost. And I was using them as a fundraiser for the food bank that they had in the school for the kids. But it was so touching to see the kids coming in and buying a carnation for someone else that really needed one. Because I thought, oh, they'll get them for their girlfriends or their boyfriends or their partners or their people or a favorite teacher. But it was amazing how many bought them for people who just needed a boost.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, because when we were growing up, it was like a popularity contest.
Oh, very much so.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you helped inspire that.
Well, I think
I
that
know
the
you did.
kids did that, but
Okay. Well,
okay.
all right.
What's
Our
our
next one says a new bookstore, or rather, we should say pharmacy of sorts, has opened in London that I would love to go to. It's called the Poetry Pharmacy on Oxford Street, and they dispense poems instead of prescriptions. Once inside, you'll see a rich mahogany cabinet containing small glass bottles labeled with various emotions such as love or invigoration or inspiration. And there are pills for dithering or existential angst. The owner, Deb Alma, says, I see our poetry as a gateway drug. If you go in there feeling stressed and run down, she might hand you an RX for pausing, with lines from Tony Hoagland's The Word. Down near the bottom of the crossed out list of things you have to do today, between green thread and broccoli, you find that you have penciled in sunlight.
Oh,
People are now seeking out the store in what they're calling a poetry pilgrimage.
oh, that's on your bucket list, I hope.
Oh, for sure. I would love that. I love that idea. And you should see the pictures. It looks like an apothecary shop.
From olden times?
Yes.
Oh, very fun.
I found this old English gentleman on TikTok, and all he does is read poetry with his beautiful voice. Well, I shouldn't say that's all he does. He sits down in his beautiful little garden and he tells you about the poet and then reads the poem. And
Oh,
yeah, it's such a lovely little break in your day to see this lovely older gentleman with his love of the English language. And I loved his recent one was on Rumi, who, was my favorite poet. And he said, the reason why I love Rumi so much is because he said, I always imagine sitting with these poets and having a cup of tea with them. And so many of the poets are focused on their own emotions, like Do Not Go Gently Into That Good Night is about his fear of death. And Into Every Life a Little Rain Shall Fall is about his views of immortality. And he says, but with Rumi, I feel like if I sat down with him for a cup of tea, he would say, how are you doing today?
oh, yes.
I just love that. There are good things on TikTok.
Our next one, a homeless man named Andrew Larson, who goes by the nickname Donut, recently went viral. On September 12th, Dominic Alexander stumbled upon Donut sitting on a curb with his guitar. In exchange for a beer, Donut offered to play a song for Alexander, a deal that would soon change both of their lives. When Donut began playing his original song, Ghost of You, Alexander was blown away by the raw emotion in his voice and the beauty of his guitar playing. Captivated, he recorded the performance and shared it on TikTok. He also started a GoFundMe campaign to get him into a recording studio. Less than a month later, Donut's song, Ghost of You, is now available on all streaming platforms. His journey from the streets to a recording studio is a reminder of the life-changing power of community, kindness, and believing in someone's talent. It's lovely.
It really
Absolutely
is.
lovely. And again, right place, right time. How could that not have been divinely orchestrated?
I know. And it just reminds you that there's always a second chance. There's always a new chapter.
Right.
And you might get down in that hole, but you'll find a way out. But usually we need a helping hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this next one's going to make you think before you eat an apple for lunch. This is about a ninth grader who invented a device to detect pesticides on produce. And guys, while you're listening to the story, think about what you were doing in ninth grade. I know I was crushing on a guy named Justin, and I was worried about what I was going to wear to the dance that Friday. I was not inventing pesticides. But this ninth grader named Sirius Subash from Snellville, Georgia, recently won the 3M Young Scientist Challenge after inventing a handheld device designed to detect pesticide residues on produce. He won $25,000 in cash and the title of America's Top Young Scientist. He says his mom always insisted that he wash his fruit before eating it, and so he wondered if the preventative action actually did any good. He learned that 70% of produce items contain pesticide residues that are linked to possible health problems like cancer and Alzheimer's, and washing only removes part of that contamination. If we could detect them, we could avoid consuming them and reduce the risk of those health issues. His device, called Pestiscan, employs spectrophotometry, which involves measuring the light that is reflected off the surface of fruits and vegetables. In his experiments, he tested over 12,000 samples of apples, spinach, strawberries, and tomatoes. Different materials reflect and absorb different wavelengths of light, and Pestiscan can look for the specific wavelengths related to the pesticide residues. After scanning the food, Pestiscan uses an AI machine learning model to analyze the light waves to determine the presence of pesticides. Are you lost, or are you with me? Because I'm a little lost. With its sensor and processor, the prototype achieved a detection accuracy rate of greater than 85%, meeting the project's objectives for effectiveness and speed. While he's still in middle school, he told reporters before he got to ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange that he plans to attend MIT. I bet he does. Isn't that amazing?
It is. It really, really is. And talk about helping so many people with that invention.
And it
That's
sounds
amazing.
well, I shouldn't say it sounds so simple, but I mean, I'm sure what he's working on, I'm hoping, will eventually be almost. I'm picturing like a wand that'll just scan your produce and help remove the pesticides.
Wow. But it goes as well with that. Okay. Did he have guidance from a scientist in the collective that said, okay, this is a problem. We're going to pop this into your head? I mean, where would you even get that? That's a very unique thing to
That
have
is.
come into your world.
That is. I do believe there are teams on the other side who work and think like who's ripe and ooh, that was not an intended pun. Who's open and ready for this idea. And I think they drop it into a bunch of different people's heads. That's why you see those phenomenons of like, you know how Alexander Graham Bell beat like 2 other people that day to the patent office when
Right.
he patented the telephone? You see stuff like that all the time. I think it's because they drop it into the collective unconscious, and then whoever is willing, ready, and able to receive it. I mean, Denise, our guides could have dropped that into our head every day, 20 times a day, and we would have been like, what?
I know. I would have just said, oh, I think I better wash this apple again.
I mean, I do. I get this organic fruit wash because I eat fruit every day, and I get it from Trader Joe's. And I wash my strawberries and my blueberries, and then when I drain that bowl, I have to do it like 3 times because the water is brown.
Oh.
And if he's saying that only removes, what was it, 40%?
Mm.
Ugh. That's scary to think about.
It is. And a personal aside is that I wish we could make organic and healthy foods available for everyone, because it shouldn't be selective on who has the resources and who doesn't to be able to eat healthier food.
Oh, well, don't listen to that. Those 2 doctors who went on Joe Rogan a couple of weeks ago and talked about the pesticides in our food compared to every other country. We are not doing well in that field.
No, we're not. And well, this is a positive show, and I'm not going to go down a dark hole, but I am wondering about long-term impacts with people that are in my age group that are suddenly having health challenges there's no correlation between where they lived and the lifestyle that they had. So was it an environmental contaminant or something to cause the health results? Anyway, there's so much to think about in the world, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
Let's get back to happy, please.
Yes.
Victoria, a mother who remembers the challenges of postpartum life, has been quietly spreading acts of kindness in a way that has touched many hearts. She writes encouraging notes to new moms and tucks them into a bag with other necessities like diapers and some cash. Then, when she sees a stressed out mom, she secretly leaves the bag in the woman's grocery cart or anonymously hands it to her. Her small but meaningful contributions have sparked a wave of goodwill online, as others began sharing their own stories of helping moms in need. And now moms are posting and tagging on social media their own efforts to help fellow moms in need. That's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
And
Especially if you're in Target and you see a mom with like a screaming toddler. You know, if you could just somehow help her or just put a little note inside the stroller, although that might be a little creepy, but you know what I mean. Something that will remind her that this too shall pass.
right. And on another, if you're someone that donates to local charities or food banks or anything that is trying to help people that may not have the ability to go into Target and do that, is think about, well, diapers are expensive. And even if someone's using cloth diapers, is there something you could do to help them? Because that's not always seen as something that people would donate.
No, I know. It's so true. You know, I remember one time, it was one of the first times I took all three of my kids into Target. So Chloe was like a newborn and Tori was 2 and Olivia was almost 4. And I always felt very proud of myself when I could take the 3 of them into Target. But you're on a time crunch, you know, because I was heading into nap time, which meant meltdown time. And I was just praying I could make it to the checkout line before one of them had a meltdown. And I'm approaching the checkout line and one of them has a meltdown. And then it was like a domino. The other 2 started crying. So I've got 3 crying kids and there's a lady in front of me and there's an older lady behind me. And she goes, "Oh, honey, this might feel stressful right now, but one day you're going to miss this. You really, really are." And I'd like to tell that lady, as much as I miss having my little ones, I don't miss the crying times. No, I don't. I will not miss that.
No.
We need to be mindful of what we say to moms. Didn't people say the weirdest things to you?
Yes.
Ugh.
Yes. And I think sometimes with the best of intentions, but if it feels like it's coming from a place of judgment or condescension or something, then you're right. Temper what you're saying.
Temper what you're saying. And just buy her a pack of diapers.
Oh, goodness.
This next one is about a celebrity. This past September, John Bon Jovi saved a woman's life in Nashville. Did you hear about this story?
I did not.
I did not either until I went looking for good stories, so I just find that interesting. He was in town filming a music video when he spotted a woman on a bridge. Surveillance footage from the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department captured the tense encounter. The police department wrote on X a shout out to John Bon Jovi and his team for helping a woman on the Sengletyre Ped Bridge Tuesday night. Bon Jovi helped persuade her to come off the ledge over the Cumberland River to safety. In the video, John Bon Jovi is seen calmly approaching the woman, speaking to her as she stood on the ledge of the bridge. Shortly after, John Bon Jovi, along with a fellow Good Samaritan, carefully helped lift the woman over the railing, bringing her to safety and away from harm. With the immediate danger behind them, Bon Jovi embraced her in a heartfelt hug, offering comfort and reassurance in the emotional moment. All right, I gotta say, if I'm at that moment and John Bon Jovi comes up, I would definitely take that as a sign.
Yes. And you know what I love is that he does a lot of incredibly kind, wonderful things for people. This one was seen on video. I love that they're acknowledging that. But I think he would do it if there was no video.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's got that beautiful restaurant that, for I think it delivers free food.
Mm-hmm.
He does a lot of good. But we found many other celebrity good news stories. Jelly Roll recently rolled up to a lemonade stand and tipped the kids $700.
Wow.
Johnny Depp donned his Jack Sparrow costume and surprised a child fan who was recovering at a hospital. And Brad Paisley opened another free grocery store for people in need. And that's just a few of the ones we found.
Oh, none of them did it for attention. I don't think they did anyway.
No, I don't either.
Our next one is about a school bus driver known in his community for going above and beyond, and it went viral when one of his acts of kindness touched the hearts of strangers. Larry Ferris Jr., a 35-year-old who drives buses in Louisville, Kentucky, noticed a little boy named Levi was having a rough morning. Normally when I pull out, he's standing there waiting for me with a big smile, but on this day he was sitting on the ground with a jacket over his head. I asked him, "Hey, buddy, what's going on? What's wrong?" That's when Levi, a first grader at Engelhard Elementary School, explained through tears that he didn't have pajamas for pajama day. Ferris Jr. closed the doors and watched as Levi slid into a seat away from his friends. "I thought I got to fix this," Ferris said. So after work, he headed to a Family Dollar store and purchased 2 pairs of pajamas for Levi. Then he headed over to Levi's school to make things right. I said, "You were hurting this morning, you were crying, so I got you these pajamas," Ferris Jr. recalls. He was so excited, you should have seen his face, how his face lit up. Levi said, "I can tell Mr. Larry is nice and his heart is filled with joy when he got me the pajamas. I did a happy cry. I've been driving buses for 7 years. It's my passion because I get to build bonds with the children. I truly love every minute of it." That's beautiful. And I used to check in with when I was a special ed teacher, and I would check in with the people that aren't always recognized in the schools, the bus drivers, the people who work in the kitchens, the custodians, the maintenance people, because they get to know the kids in a different way. And when you think about it, bus drivers know where those kids are coming from, what's going on, who's there at the bus stop with them. And they're often the most kind, gentle people you'd ever want to meet in your life that really love kids.
Yeah, I completely agree. Ours went on strike a couple of years ago because they hadn't gotten a raise in so long. And suddenly everybody sat up and thought, oh, we need to really applaud these people. They're the first line of defense in many ways. And so they finally got the raise they deserved and needed because it's not an easy job.
Oh, no. I've done a lot of jobs. I have no desire to drive a bus. And okay, just to go a little woo-woo with it, when you think about, you know how we've talked about when you're in your car and someone cuts you off, you find it almost like a physical violation because your auric field has filled the car.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine a bus full of kids with all their little auras bouncing around in there. That's a lot of energy.
That's a lot of energy. And then imagine, parking the bus in the parking lot, you're done for the day, and you're like, no, I'm going to get in my car, I'm going to drive, I'm going to pick out pajamas for this little boy, I'm going to drive back to that school, drop them off. I mean, that's amazing.
Yes.
Okay,
I
our
love
next
it.
one is about a woman who did all good work her whole life and is finally getting to see a little bit of the fruits of her labor. Essie Gilchrist, known as Mama Essie to the many children she fostered, was shocked when she learned that Hannah Smith was looking for her. Mama Essie had been her foster mom more than 40 years ago. Recently, Smith posted on her social media, "I was 12 years old when my mom lost the ability to parent me safely. I was taken from her and put into a huge and scary children's shelter. It took a long time, but they finally found someone who would take in a deeply wounded, troubled, rather wild child like me. I wasn't all that nice to her. I stole from her. I ran up her phone bill calling my boyfriend," Smith wrote. "I eventually ran away and was put back in the shelter and never saw her again. I'm sure I broke her heart. And the foundation of everything I know about grace, about dignity, fashion, makeup, hair care, elegance, excellence, self-care, patience, love, goodness, generosity, and fierceness in the face of pain came from my Mama Essie," she wrote. Then she added, "I heard you, I saw you, you made a difference more than you'll ever know." Smith, who now works as a trauma therapist in the state of Washington, went on to note that she had tried to find Gilchrist in the past without any luck, because Gilchrist had gotten married and changed her last name. But thanks to the powers of social media, the two have reunited. That reminds me of those old unsolved mystery stories. Remember, it would have the caption "reunited"?
Yes.
Oh, I used to love those stories. And I just think it's great because, Mama Essie has been doing this for over 40 years, and I'm sure other kids have grown up and come back to her. But I'm sure there's many nights where she lays in bed and thinks, "Wonder about that one," or "I wonder where this one is today." And how
Right.
beautiful that she's able to see that.
And again, you never know the impact you're having in someone's life. They might not tell you, you might not hear about it for 40 years, but I think that's why we want to try to focus on at least trying to do something kind every now and again, right?
Yes.
Okay. Our next one is from Reader's Digest, and they shared this incredible story with readers last month. Despite suffering sieges, massacres, and displacement because of the Russian invasion, Ukrainians have defied expectations and put up a strong fight. The same can be said for the hardworking team at Bakehouse in Kiev. When war first broke out, the bakery's chef and owner left the country with her 2 young children. Her employees, however, refused to close shop. Not only are the people behind Bakehouse still operating the business, but they've been giving away up to 1,000 loaves of bread every day since the beginning of the conflict to soldiers, seniors, and hospital workers. Their kindness has inspired others. When English sourdough bread baker Andrew Green heard about Bakehouse's story, he enlisted other chefs to donate recipes for a charity cookbook, Need Peace, Need with a K. All proceeds go to a relief group in the Ukraine. For the team, these loaves are more than just food. There's something good being created in the face of war and suffering, and we'll continue to bake them for as long as our country needs them.
I love
Uh,
that.
oh, but see that inspiration that someone's doing something nice. Someone else says, well, what can we do to help build on that?
Yeah, that's how it works. This next one is one I hope that will leave us all with a little bounce in our step just at the thought of it. Could we be headed toward a 4-day work week? Wouldn't that be wonderful? From 2015 to 2019, 2,500 workers in Iceland reduced their typical 40-hour work week by 4 or 5 hours while still receiving the same pay. Researchers found that, unsurprisingly, the workers, who were drawn from hospitals, preschools, and offices, were happier and less stressed. Imagine that. Importantly, they were also just as productive. Nearly 90% of Iceland's workers now work fewer hours. Similar experiments have been completed in New Zealand and Spain, while politicians in Japan and California have proposed dry runs of their own. I think that would be wonderful.
I think the work-life balance that people are searching for is incredibly important right now.
It really is. It really is. Because you just don't have a whole lot of time to do all the other stuff. Dentist appointment, doctor's appointments, cleaning your house, relaxing on your deck in your yard at your city park. And you only have 2 days to get all that other stuff done.
The world's in transition, that's for sure. And maybe this is one that will bring more balance.
I hope so. And we hope that this episode has brought you a little bit of a spark of joy in your week. Thank you so much for joining us. If you find a good news story that you'd like for us to share on the show, you can email us enlightenedempaths@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out our work. Denise's website is thegratefulmessenger.com, and you can find me at samanthafay.com. Have a great week, everyone. Remember, as always, to show up, do good work, and share your light.
Take care.